Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, along with my co-host.
I am Bonnie Snyder. We're having a morning.
Sorry, we're laughing so much. This is our first time back in a little over 2 months. We just moved the new studio, so we're at the new studio now. And yeah, it kind of feels pretty good to be back.
It feels amazing to be back. As we were, setting up and everything, it was like, do we remember how to do this? Yeah, I'm not sure if many of you realize that, we were on a little hiatus, taped a few shows in advance, and now we're back. And yeah, in the new spot, it looks amazing.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's really nice and big. And yeah, we're going to be able to do some really awesome things here coming up in the next few months. So, what'd you do?
During the hiatus?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work-related stuff. I spent some time with family. I was able to go and see, Carl and Bricks and, his new baby. Enjoy, and the family back in the Midwest, and visited them for a little bit, and just work. Work is like, oh, so you're not taping for a while. We got some things for you to do, or for me.
We get you back.
I'm not taping for a while. Have I got some things I need to do? But yeah, it's a lot of work-related stuff.
But there was also an anniversary in there too, huh?
August is that month. August is that month. I mean, for me, it is, the anniversary of losing Patrick, which I decided, going forward. I didn't work it last year, didn't work it, this year. And then, the 23rd, I took the 23rd off. That's the anniversary of his service.
And that's not, when I realized that.
Yeah, I was like, I generally, again, it's one of those things where I think sometimes I get through it okay. It's just like, I don't want to say it's just another day, but it, manifests itself as it's just another day or I'm good. This year, I found for whatever reason I was an emotional wreck. And even I found myself, asking, why am I so oversensitive this year? And I really couldn't put my finger on it. In the moment, I just kind of like as we talked about this. On past shows about just allowing yourself to, to feel what you're feeling, just kind of as, I use the terminology, just sit there and marinate for a minute and, allow yourself to process. But that was pretty much, and then of course, for me, the other thing with August, it's my screening month where, let's make sure you're still cancer-free. So, yeah, all of that stuff lumped into 1 month, First, it, on some hands, can become overwhelming. But on the other hand, I was like, you know what, just do it. Just do it. And what did you do?
Well, when you say about August and the 23rd, because that happens to be my birthday, but it's also our anniversary. And I turned 60 this year, so it was a milestone birthday. And, just not having Bobby here to share it. And plus, when it was his idea for us to get married on my birthday, so he wouldn't forget. Mm-hmm. And
smart guy.
Years ago it was. Right now it's not. But it would have been our 29th wedding anniversary. And gosh, we were so young back then.
It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, I pulled that off Facebook. I did one of the Facebook highlight things on it. But yeah, we got married in our backyard, down by the lake down there, and but I still kind of like celebrate it. But a couple of my friends, well, and you ended up being there that night too. We were having it was supposed to be a Zoom meeting, our committee meeting for Art for Hope. That it was set up that way until one of our members has a big mouth and started making phone calls. So we ended up most of us getting together and going for dinner, having our meeting as a kind of like a side birthday dinner, which was nice because the meeting was really great. We got a lot accomplished.
We did.
And I didn't have to, it was more fun, for me, for my birthday. Being around you guys.
For me, I don't think I realized that it was your birthday. It's like, again, of course, I'm.
Well, I could tell you weren't.
Yeah, it was.
You were in a different zone, and I could tell, but you were sitting all the way at the other end of the table from me, so I couldn't really communicate that much. I could just tell you were that it. Yeah,
I felt like
off.
A fish out of water. Well, not like a fish out of water, but I wasn't in my normal headspace.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when the media was getting set up. It's like, I think one of the feeds or emails that I got was, do you guys want Zoom or do you want in person? And several people were like, I'm tired of Zoom.
I know.
I want it in person. And I got to, and for me, I was, I'm really glad that someone suggested in person. Because in the, we'll just call it a blue funk, the funk that I was in.
Right.
Being out, around, people, was really, really helpful.
That's the way I ended up feeling. I mean, we were gonna do it Zoom because, well, when we first started taking our time off, it was like we could almost go out and do things. We were beginning to go out networking again and doing things, and that lasted all of 4 weeks,
Something like that,
and then
month.
Boom, then we get shut down again, and now we're back to Zoom. But a couple of our members, Maria, just going through her breast cancer stuff, she didn't feel comfortable. She had a scare too because she was at an event that they thought somebody had been exposed to COVID, and she had to go get tested, but she tested negative, and so did the other person. So she wasn't going to take that chance, and I don't blame her, anyone that feels that way, but it was a really good meeting, and we what we were talking about is one of our fundraisers, because this month right now, September, is National Suicide Prevention Month, and actually this week is I don't know if it's National or International Suicide Prevention Week.
I think it's international.
I think it's international too, and it's from September 5th to September 11th, and International Suicide Prevention Day is September 10th, and it's that day every year. So we are running again Art for Hope as virtual. So we're kind of doing these little pop-up events. By the time this airs, our first pop-up event will be done. Kelly Steen's doing a jewelry fundraiser on the 9th via Facebook, but you could probably go on the link. If you go on the foundation Facebook page, you can find the information, and I'm sure that if you contact her, she'll run it further. She has what's that, paparazzi jewelry. It's really nice jewelry, and it's like $5, and $1 for each thing sold is going to be donated to the foundation.
That's nice. That's nice.
But then what we were talking about at our committee meeting was painting with a purpose, and we're going to be doing, which Painting with a Twist has a couple different fundraisers that you can do, And if you go to that calendar, Rob, go to the calendar. If I don't know if you can do this, if you can go to the calendar view and go down to October. I checked it today. They have it up, and there's 3 different ways that you can participate. There it is, our neon dragonfly. We had quite a conversation and a vote.
What a conversation it was.
And Neon Dragonfly won. So you can participate in 3 different ways. It's going to be October 21st. Mm-hmm. And we can only have 10 people in the studio, painting with the Twist Studio in Trinity. So I think we have 8 spaces left. But we have other opportunities where locally you can purchase the kit and you pick it up about within a week of the event. Mm-hmm. And you can participate virtually. So we're going to be live in person and live virtually.
Is it like a Facebook live stream?
I don't know.
And it may not be Facebook, but there are, I know some events that, we do, through work that we do that, half of it is in person and other half is in live.
Right. I'm not sure exactly the technology that's going to be used for the virtual part of it. But the image that we picked, that one, it comes with a video. Mm-hmm. So the event is at 7 o'clock. It's a Thursday night. But you can still participate if you can't make it at that time, because that image that we picked comes with a video. And so you can purchase the kit and you can paint it anytime you want.
Gotcha.
You have your own instruction. But so there, like I said, there's 3 ways that you can participate. You can either be in their studio. I'm going to hold John to his kind of promise that we're going to have also a group here at the studio painting. So Dylan will probably be here, taking care of that. I don't know how many people we'll be able to have, 10, 12, something like that. Or, again, you can, and also we have it where if you don't live in the area and you want to participate, you can purchase the kit, you pay Painting with a Twist, and then you pay the foundation. Through the foundation, you pay us the shipping, which is, I think, $12.65, and I'll go pick up the kits and ship them to you. The deadline for that is October 1st, so that they have enough time to get the kits together, and we have enough time to ship them to you and get them to you on time. Okay. So that's why there's like 3 different images or events on that day, so you can choose which one you want to participate in. The top one, which is the in studio at their studio, isn't open yet, but the other 2 you can go ahead and purchase. If you're local, they don't want you to pick up the kits until that week before, because it's fresh paints, and they could get yucky if they wait a little while. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. And if this, and it seems like it's going to be very well received and attended, and we haven't even really pushed it out yet. So we may do another one after the first of the year, because there was almost a tie for images, and some people gave up their vote because they knew the other one was going to win.
Well, the thing for me, the thing with the dragonfly, it's so symbolic.
It is, and that's the reason that I think it came in first. But the other one had a heart, and so that one was symbolic too in a way. But
yeah, I was last 2 weekends. I had the opportunity, or made the opportunity to go and do some work in my garage. 'Cause my garage is always a disaster, always. It's like I'll clean it, and then it's like, didn't I just clean this? But it was interesting. Like 2 weekends ago, this was right before before the meeting. I'm in my garage and I'm cleaning, doing some stuff, and a dragonfly flies into the garage, and it landed on the handle to the lawnmower. And I'm looking at this dragonfly, and I'm like, and it just sat there. It didn't move. I'm thinking, I look at my camera. So I go in the house, and I said, by the time I go in the house and come back out, it's going to be gone. And, so, when you come out of my garage, it's like, quick left turn, and you're in my bedroom. So I grabbed my phone and came back out, and it was still sitting there. And so I, took a picture of it, and it stayed there. So I was able to get a couple of shots of it. And my brain was processing, because it was, in that time frame of, his pet staff and the service and whatnot. And, it immediately hit my brain. Dragonfly is a sign, it's a sign from, someone that you lost.
It's kind of like people, it's a symbol kind of like the cardinals.
Yes. And so I'm looking at this dragonfly, and I'm just like, dude, is that you? Like, what's up? Yes, I'm cleaning the garage, for the umpteenth time. I'm kind of keeping this tradition that you and I had of, we spend the weekend in the garage, and then we spend the next week destroying it to clean it the next weekend. And so this past weekend, same, I'm in the garage. Next thing I know, I see, this dragonfly come in, and I'm like, dude, you're back. I'm like, what's up? And I don't know where it went to, so I wasn't able to get a picture of it. But back up to Sunday, this past, Sunday that just passed, my neighbor, his children, and I, we went kayaking. I love to kayak. It's, that's my place of zen. And, as, we're getting ready to paddle out, all of a sudden there was like a mini swarm of dragonflies.
Oh, how cool.
And I'm looking, and I was like, of all of the times that I didn't have my GoPro with me, a friend had given my grandsons an underwater camera, those mini underwater cameras. Didn't have a GoPro, didn't have the underwater camera, and I didn't have, I have a pouch that I seal my phone in when I take it out. Didn't have my phone sealed, because I was away for the, it's like it was away for the first part of the weekend. I didn't get home until late, so I was like, I'll just pack everything in the morning. Where's my pouch? So, needless to say, I'm looking at all of these signs of dragonflies. So I think it's just, for me anyway, it's fitting that that's the print that we're doing, and I love it.
It's gonna be a really, really nice piece, and that's why it was chosen for our first one, because it is symbolic. And plus, a couple of other comments, it was probably the easier one of the three we picked to start with.
For the non-artists. For the non-artists in the bunch.
But it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a fun event. And, what we really want to do is encourage people that, if you're not local, or if you, can't be in either studio, get 2 or 3 friends to come over to your house and do it with us. Have a bottle of wine there and, paint along.
Or a bottle of whatever you want to
Or
drink.
a bottle of whatever.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Might even need something stronger.
Or not. It kind of depends. It kind of depends.
Loosen you up to do a really nice painting, So it's going to be, I'm looking forward to it. So now that they got it up on the calendar, so we can start pushing it out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited about that. And we've also been talking about it. It's not like totally confirmed yet, but we usually, when we have our in-person thing, we have art sales, which I'm going to start bringing in every week, different pizzas to feature, and they'll be up on the website for sale under the Art for Hope page. And that's another thing that we've been working on is redoing the website. John's been working with me with that, and the new website is going to look, I'm excited about it. Just got a couple little things that we need to get tweaked. And so hopefully, maybe by the time this airs, it'll be up. And we'll have QR codes to do stuff, and getting the postcards printed for Art for Hope too. So make it easy for people to reach us. So
I like that.
and there's another way you can help support us with our T-shirts, and that's our first one. We do have some in the foundation office available, or you can go onto that website there and order them, and they'll ship anywhere. We got the regular crew neck, and then a V-neck, more of a woman's style, and then our second design should be out here pretty soon. Keeping my fingers crossed. So yeah, a lot of things been going on and rolling, and like just before we're getting ready to come back, and so there's going to be a lot of things to share. That we have a lot of events in October that we're going to be at. I met with a couple gals last Friday from Pasco County Parks and Recreation. She was actually at the ASAP event we were at Sims Park. The recovery walk. And she contacted me. They are going to have it. They're kind of calling it like recreate your mind. They're going to have a 5K run to stomp out suicide. It's October 16th in Dade City at the with the Lacucci River Park. We'll have a table there. We'll be a vendor there, and they're going to have the 5K. They're going to have a walk. They're going to have snacks, and there's going to be food trucks, I think, there. A kids' play zone, and how this came about, and I'm really, really happy they're doing that, because the money that they're raising is going to organizations in our community. And, and that's, how we started. That's what we're about, is, for services and information and education and, helping people in our community. And had a really good meeting with them, and so we're going to be partnering together, doing some things, and hopefully utilizing the park system a lot more with some events that we can pop up and do. I have some really kind of neat ideas I can't really share yet. I'm working on them, but how this came about was back in the spring, which is actually, and you wouldn't think this, spring is the time of year that has the highest rate of suicides. They lost a team member to suicide this past spring. He was 55 years old, and they weren't given any tools to figure out how to deal with it. Nobody knew what to do, or nobody was helping, these co-workers. And so they basically decided to take it on themselves. And so I gave them some purple folders, and let them know that they're available to, other employees that, really, that, want or need them, or that, need to talk, or, anything. So they were really excited. When I talked to Kim, one of the gals, the first time before we met, we were talking on the phone, and they told me this when we had our meeting, that she was supposed to be going to somebody's office. I think it was the other gal's office, and she was like, we were just talking, and she goes, I went 3 miles past my turnoff. And she was talking to her. She goes, I was talking to this gal, and she said, I was just so excited. I really wasn't paying attention to where I was going. Because I can't wait to tell you, what it was all about. So it was really neat. So And we're already talking about doing another event somewhere in the spring.
And when I hear you say it was Kim at the Parks and Recs there in Dade City that you spoke to, if you've never been to with Wacoochee River Park, it's a beautiful park. It's a amazing, perfect venue for that run. But Kim and I are personal friends.
Oh,
And yes, as a matter of fact, Kim and I are personal friends. I met her, much like you, through work. I do events and stuff for her, during the summertime a lot of times. And as a matter of fact, she and I spoke after this coworker's death. In my brain, as soon as you said Kim, it clicked, and I was like, wait a minute. Small world. Yeah, Kim and I spoke right after, the coworker's suicide, and she and I had talked about doing something for it, but then of course COVID derailed a lot of things too.
Right.
So yeah, I'll definitely reach out to her and say, so you're talking to my co-host.
Well, and it's funny because I guess maybe I don't know if it clicked for her or not, because I mentioned our show, because actually this is it. They're going to be on our show next week.
Yeah, if I go over to my phone, I can pull Kim's number out and say, so dude, you didn't tell me you're going to be on my show next week. Like, what's up with this? Yeah, I will definitely be giving her a call later on.
Yeah, they're going to be. Yeah, I told them, I said, we're going to talk about this this week, and because they couldn't be here this week, and I said, okay, the following Tuesday, put us on your calendar. You're coming over, and so they're.
So is she coming out in person, or?
No, they're coming over here. They're going to both. They're both going to be in the studio.
Now, Unique the other person coming with her?
I don't. It might be. I was supposed to look at the email before I came down here.
Gotcha.
And I think for some reason Tina sticks in my head, but then I think I'm wrong.
I'm gonna give Miss Kim a call and tell her. So.
I have to look at my other email to see who the other gal. She's a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very nice, very, very sweet gal. Yeah, they were having a really hard time.
It was, as with any, suicide loss, it was unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And you're reluctant to what some might call agency bashing. So I want to, make sure that I'm clear that I'm not, I don't know the protocols over at Parks and Rec as
Right.
it relates to this. However, the sense that I got was, much like whether it's an agency, a family member, an individual, when you lose, a loved one to a suicide, it's like, what do we do? Like, what do you do for the coworkers? What do you do for the folks that were left behind? And I'm thinking in terms of, an agency. Not only do you have to, is it necessary to process the loss of the person, at the same time, there's still that gymnastics of sort and how do we keep the agency running? How do we fill that void? So you can't just shut down the company. Along with that, and I'm trying to remember if this individual, worked with some of the youth. So it's like you've got the staff that are affected by the death. You've got any potential,
Public contact. Or,
whether it's youth
Right.
or there was a word I was looking for and my brain just locked there for a second. But again, any youth that might have been impacted by the loss, like, all of a sudden, I'm just using a generic name right now, Mr. Jones is here today, Mr. Jones is not here tomorrow. Where's Mr. Jones? And then it's like, how do you delicately, respectfully, let the children know who's, used to having Mr. Jones with them every day. Suddenly, Mr. Jones isn't here. And if you're familiar with, the Parks and Recreation staff in Dade City, that is a tight-knit group.
Yeah, I gathered that from when I met with them.
Like they are more like, family to one another than,
Just another coworker.
yeah, you walk in,
Yeah.
there are those of us, we have our, work friendships that, I would say, that are tight, but at the same time, they're also very superficial. Like I'm tight with you as long as we're at work.
At work. Yeah, right.
The minute the workday ends, I may or may not see you until the next time we're at work together. Where this particular group, they were, seem very tight knit on and off the job. I mean, like I said, if we're talking, it was like that, there could only be one Kim.
Right.
There's like that, like I said, Kim's a personal friend. And so, knowing, I know that the department, especially, her, the people that she works with closely, because he was one of them, was devastated by that loss. Like,
Yeah,
devastated.
they were, and that's why I'm really glad to see them step up and do something like this, and actually, kind of gathering us other organizations around, because like I told them, not a one of us or a one of us organization can battle this on our own. It takes all of us to do it. So, and I'm going to have contact, and I don't know if they're going to be able to be there, because it's also the same day as that one at Gildog's, back to red, white, and blue. For some reason, I can't, the name of it.
I don't frequent Guild Dogs enough to know what.
Well, they had the event last year. It's red, white, and back to blue, or something like that.
Okay.
It happens to be on the same day.
Right. And like I said, I still don't frequent Guild Dogs
yeah.
enough to know their events.
I'll have it, because we're going to be there too. We're kind of split up our committee. We're going to have some people. The Dade City one, I have to be out there like at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know who's going to come with me. That's an early riser.
At that one, I will definitely. I'll definitely be there with you. At
Well,
that
then
one.
come, yeah. And then I think I'm emailing this information to Kim from 9 Round. See if we can get some 9 rounders from the gym to participate in the run. Would be really good.
Yeah, and I mean, I can.
And then we'll have some people over attending the table at Guild Dogs. I think that one is a later event too. So when we finish at in Dade City, may be able to run over there and help out at the end of the other one. But I was going to say, because our foundation is, we're kind of more on the lost survivor side of it, although prevention plays into it because just of the nature of it, because lost survivors are at such a high risk for suicide also. And then I know these other people, they have Ian's Way, and their focus is teen suicide prevention. The gal who founded it lost her 16-year-old son. Actually, it was 2 years in August that Ian passed away. And so we're going to get them involved so that, it's getting all these different organizations that play a role. What's her name? Nami?
Debbie.
So all this information is going out to them, see if they'll have a table out there too. And they probably wouldn't hurt for them to be at the other one too. I'll have to get her that information.
Yeah, I mean, I would even reach out to, what I do in my daytime work, my other work, my other job, my paid job. There are some things that you do, and you don't get paid for, and you would do that over what you get
What do you
paid,
get paid for?
So, that was not any slight whatsoever, folks. Just want to make sure everybody understood that. But, again, with this being, suicide awareness, suicide prevention month, that what I do on my other life, call it my other life, is very much focused on, not only stomping out stigma, but we tend to put a focus on whatever the awareness month happens to be. And, of course, mind you, starting 2 years ago, when, like suicide awareness, like I said, prior to 2 years ago, I would be involved with it. Where do you need me to be? What event do we have going on? What research needs to be done? And of course, after losing Aiden, it became personal. And, I don't know really if, like we focused on it, but it wasn't like a hard focus. And I think as the rates of suicide went up more and more, as, the agency that I work for, became whoa, we really need to, pump some brakes here a minute and, help, figure out what do we need to do to reduce, the number of suicides, what's going on that this is all happening. I remember my supervisor, and again, this was right after Aiden, gently asking me, do you want to be a part of this? Or, she sent out an email and, I answered back right away, yes, most definitely. I want to be a part of this. I want to, be on, whether it's, our planning committees or, we were developing a strategy, to deal with, again, to deal with suicide, however, it had to start with, what were the barriers? What as people are looking for services and whatnot, what was available, what wasn't, what worked, what didn't, what were people's stigmas or stereotypes relating to suicide and what happened afterwards. But anyway, needless to say, it's like up here we are, here we are in another month, and it's like it's important that we do attack it from all angles, because I think that's my humble opinion. When we're dealing with a topic like suicide, I look at it as it's a table with a couple of legs on it, like more than two legs. It's like 3 or 4 legs. You've got that prevention piece. Of course, we don't want anybody to take their own life. But then we have the the lost survivor leg. Those people that are left behind, and how do we navigate them and prevent
additional
a loss on this side,
right?
And then we also, and we have over here, the resources and services that are available to, lost survivors, or, to be, to add another layer on this. What about those who have attempted but did not complete? Because it's, I think back, this morning, I was sitting in the office. And my supervisor told me like last week, suicide, as this month was coming up, she says, can you send me a link for your show? So I was really surprised. A lot of, several people that I work with did not know that, I'm in a studio every week doing this. Just, I may have mentioned it, or may have been like, made in passing. Because again, this is not at all linked to my
Right.
work. This is, strictly my personal time that I do this. With, mind you, my company's a blessing. I do have, permission to do this. But they know every once a week I walk out of the office or walk away from what I'm doing and hit the studio. But, we were talking about, what's coming up and everything like that. And I happened to mention, Phil looked and I was like, you do what? And I was like, yeah, we're on episode 38 now. I think it's 38.
I think it was I thought it was 38. I looked it up, and as far as I could find, we're on 35.
Okay,
that was all that I had in my computer, and I tried to go to YouTube. But
right, and see, that's what I'm saying. When I was on YouTube actually this morning. So I was like, okay, which ones do I want to send her? And I sent her the one with Kira, and I sent her the one with Patrick, and I was like, here's these two. And I looked at one. We can debate it. It said one episode 37, so I think we're on.
Maybe.
I think.
Well, then Rob's going to have to change what I wrote on the sheet. Then
I think we're on. But anyway,
I thought we were on 38, quite frankly, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, I think today.
Although, because in my computer, 33 and 34 is dated June 30th. And was the end of June is when we stopped taping. Or did we tape 1 week in July? I don't remember. Yeah. Oh, well.
Regardless what 30 number
we're at 30-something.
We're at 30-something. But to have this going for, as long as it has, with the information that, we put out. God, we've been doing this for half a year now.
Over half a year. We started December, first week of December.
Been doing this.
First week of December. Before you know it, it'll be a year.
Yeah.
And, with all the stuff that's coming up and, all the events and people are, like, the Kim and the other gal, when we were talking, and that's part of the process is to be able to talk about it. Because, once you're thrown into a situation like this, you don't know what you don't know. And we need people to understand more and to be able to listen and not be afraid to say the word, not be afraid to if you think somebody is going through a hard time, what to look for, not to be afraid to flat out ask them.
Are you thinking about harming yourself? And I think, from, of course, my brain always goes to looking at it, through, a mental health lens, we toss these terms out like, normalizing, destigmatizing, and the like. And, mind you, it's not the idea of this, what we're doing and, other, entities like us or, whether it's a show, whether it's a, an agency.
An event.
It is not, oh, somebody died by suicide. Oh, okay. It's not to make it seem like, I just picked up this piece of paper or, the sun is shining and somebody died by suicide. Okay. It is, basically normalizing the conversation, to piggyback on what you said, making it okay to talk about it, whether, you have, you're encountering somebody, who you feel might be, metaphorically on the edge, or if it's you yourself. I found it necessary on a couple of occasions, to your point of, loss survivors being at that high risk. The veterans, the Veterans Administration, VA, they have a crisis line.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have that line on speed dial. There's, I unabashedly, unashamedly admit I've used that line a couple of times myself. And as I'm talking to the person on the other end of the phone, my brain processes that question that that Evan asked me during the interview after Pat. You're a mental health professional. How does this happen to you? And as I'm talking to whoever's on the other end, it's like, I'm sure you could see, I'm sure you can see through the records that what I do for a living. And the last person I talked to, I just remember his name was Gordon. Why I just remembered Gordon for some reason. And I remember Gordon, looking at Gordon and saying, I don't understand why I'm such a mess, and it's like, I'm so used to being on your side of this conversation and talking to somebody else, but here I am talking to you. And, one of the things he said to me was very profound, where he said, sometimes, arguably one might say those of us in the field need the field.
Right.
More so. And I remember, of course I shared this, multiple times, throughout, our journey on the show. When I was in, I think the first year, I was doing a doctoral program. And, we were in professional development, and, our instructor, who was also the dean of the program, So, how many of you have ever, been in therapy before? Of course, we're all looking, is this a trick question?
Right.
I'm like, why is she asking? And it was very profound, because I think for some of us, myself included, was, all right, so we put our hands up and say, it was me. Was that going to result in it? All right, this person, we're probably going to have to drop from the program. This person's going to drop from the program. What she said to us, because we're like, okay, we're going to have to, we're going to take a chance, and, some hands went up, myself included. You don't know the process, until you have experienced the process. And, I keep that with me because it's very, it's applicable to what we go through, or, anybody who has lost someone through, a suicide, or an overdose, any death that's unnatural. And I mean, I don't want to, I don't mean to minimize, natural deaths as well, because, they're just traumatic. The difference, that I feel, again, this is just my own personal feelings, is there's an ability to prepare yourself for a natural death. I think, back, 30 odd years ago, when my grandfather passed away, most important man in my life. But he was ill. We knew we were going to, they eventually was going to lose him. So when the end came, of course I was over in Germany, when he passed, but I was devastated. This, man who raised me from a baby, who was, again, the most important man in my life, was gone. My younger sister, likewise, she'd been ill for a long time, and when she passed, it was like, okay, my younger sister, it's my sibling, she's gone, But I processed those, if I look at those two particular deaths, very differently than, an Aiden, a Patrick, a Bobby, because those weren't supposed to happen like that.
Well, and like with Bobby, through the years, he had multiple sclerosis for 25 years. And that wasn't going to be a good outcome at some point. and I kind of, throughout the years, kind of conditioned myself that, I was going to lose him to MS. And I could, in my head, deal with that because, he had it for a long time. Mm-hmm. We were lucky to have him for 25 years after his diagnosis. Many people that are diagnosed don't have that opportunity. So, we felt kind of lucky, but not to suicide.
Not like this, yeah. And so, as I was, sitting in my office, getting, prepping for the rest of my week and, preparing to come here, I was revisiting the episode, that Carl was here, or that Carl was on. And, some of the things that was said, in terms of, closure, and I just happened to key in on that discussion that we had about closure. And, in my head, I have a struggle with that word now, like pre-Aiden, pre-Pat. I would have, okay, now let's talk about closure and what this is going to look like for you. And, getting you to this new normal, to that other side of my head, that non-professional side of me. It's like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Like, who came up with that? But then of course I, come back to that, and I, it's funny that I'm like that professional side of my, my brain. But I do it to illustrate how we do have this conflict, within our, regardless of what our particular professions. And I just happen to be in mental health, and I don't look at it as like, oh, I'm the know-all, end-all, be-all. But it's fun.
Well, it goes back to, with suicide or overdose or whatever. There's no discrimination.
No, it isn't. And for me, I think it's fun to. It gives me a line that I can draw in the sand that says, all right, on this side, which is, might be the more rational side, my non-professional side, mind you, is this where, this side, is potentially a little more scripted, but then it's like, but this side is what keeps this side, quote unquote, sane. Mm-hmm. And, so again, it's like, there is really, yes, closure is a thing. It's a phenomenon. It's real. At the same time, that word closure has so many different connotations to it. I look at it more of a navigating through this new normal, understanding that, yes, we no longer have a physical presence, amongst us. However, there's we have the memories, we have, the experience of having them with us. And now how do carrying forward without that physical body, still
right.
here.
Well, and I don't ever see a closure.
We got to work on that one. We're going to work on that one.
It's it's something that you're traveling through.
And I think, I want to say, to your point when you say, I don't see a closure. I think for me, what I process when I hear that from people, what do you mean closure? And even for myself, when I was like, that's the stupidest thing. Like I remember telling Kira, everything that I said to you, that was the stupidest stuff that ever came out of my mouth. But then, you come back down to, earth, per se. I think the issue is when we hear the word closure, because it seems so final, mm-hmm. and it's like, okay, it's like closing the door. And if I close this door, that somehow or another symbolizes that person or that experience was not there anymore, or it was insignificant, and that's not the case.
Right.
So, wow, it's hard to believe we have
Well,
wound it
now we're
down.
coming up on closure.
Yes, we have closure. We have
Okay,
closure
this
on
is where I can do. This is coming up on closure. Already, we're coming to the end of our show, and it's great to be back in the studio. We want to thank John and Rob from WeBeam TV, as always. This move was quite a feat, and
Talk about some gymnastics.
yeah, but it's I'm excited. I think everybody involved in the studio, all the other hosts in their shows are all excited. So it's going to be great moving forward. So we have a lot of new stuff to bring you. Remember the prevention hotlines. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Please put that 800 number in your phone. Veterans, you press 1. It's always good to have. I have it in my phone. Whenever I go out and talk, I encourage people to put that in their phone. So it's important.
It is very much
Important. So, again, we want to thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned because there's a lot of exciting things coming up, informative. We want to grow moving forward. And just remember, there's always hope. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.